Dad, do you believe in God? Elon Musk had answered questions from presidents and physicists, but nothing prepared him for this. What he said next stunned his son, shook his own beliefs, and sparked a journey no one expected. Because the real question wasn't about God, it was about what Elon had been missing all along. Before we continue this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another inspiring story you won't want to miss. It was late, one of those still California nights where the hum of traffic faded into distant silence. Inside Elon Musk's Los Angeles home, the modern walls and tall windows gave way to a sky full of stars, perfectly visible through the glass-paneled ceiling above the dining room. The lights inside were soft and warm, casting a golden hue over the large oak table where Elon sat, shoulders hunched slightly, scrolling through pages of Tesla production reports on his tablet. A half-eaten dinner rested beside him, untouched for the last 20 minutes. His fingers flicked at the screen with muscle memory, but his mind was elsewhere, entrenched in logistics, timelines, and models. Across the table, his young son, X, sat quietly. A small spoon rested near his untouched bowl. He wasn't fidgeting, wasn't whining, just still, watching his father. Grimes, sitting nearby with her chin in her hand, had said little all evening. Her eyes drifted between father and son, sensing something beneath the quiet. Then X looked up. His voice was soft but certain. "Dad, do you believe in God?" The words were clear and immediate. The air in the room shifted. Elon stopped scrolling. His fingers froze mid-measure. His eyes slowly lifted from the screen. For the first time in his life, Elon Musk didn't know what to say. Elon blinked, startled by the simplicity and weight of the question. He leaned forward slightly, his voice quieter than before. "Why do you ask that, X?" The boy looked down at his plate, then back up, eyes wide and honest. "Because everyone talks about God, like he's real. Some people say he made everything. Some say it's just physics. But if we go to Mars, will God be there too?" The room fell completely silent. Elon opened his mouth, instinctively reaching for the language he knew: cosmic expansion, quantum probability, the origin of matter. But as he began to speak, the words caught somewhere inside him. Logic suddenly felt too small. He glanced at Grimes, as if for help. She leaned in, her voice calm and thoughtful. "Maybe faith is a different kind of intelligence," she said. "Not something to prove, just something we feel when we know there's more." Elon leaned back in his chair, his hands resting quietly in his lap. For the first time in a long time, the engineer, the inventor, the titan of reason, didn't have a formula. He didn't have a map. Something cracked open inside him, something raw and unfamiliar. For the first time, Elon Musk felt uncertain and deeply human. Elon's mind drifted as the room fell silent. He saw pieces of his life replaying behind his eyes like flashes of code. The early days, selling Zip2, co-founding PayPal, chasing digital revolutions. He remembered sleeping under his desk, living off caffeine and vision, telling himself that greatness required sacrifice. Then came Tesla, with its battle against disbelief. SpaceX followed, born from an obsession to save humanity from its own Neuralink. Starlink, the boring company. All stitched together by one relentless belief: that progress was salvation. Faith in that world felt like a relic, something humanity needed before science, a tool for those without answers. Elon had long dismissed it as mythology, superstition dressed in poetry. Equations made sense, data could be trusted, but belief? It wasn't rational, it wasn't scalable. And yet, something about his son's voice, small, sincere, unguarded, cut through that armor. It wasn't a debate. It wasn't an argument. It was a child's question that felt like a whisper. From somewhere deeper, he thought of his own childhood, buried under the weight of South African classrooms and a stormy home life. There were moments, brief and blurry, when he too had looked at the sky and wondered if someone was listening, before logic took over, before certainty became his shield. Now, with a lifetime of inventions behind him, he stared at the boy across the table and felt something unsettling. A longing. A small grief for all the things he had abandoned in pursuit of progress. Maybe, he thought, he had been asking the wrong questions, and suddenly the man who'd built rockets couldn't explain the stars. Elon leaned forward, his fingers steepled in front of him. "Okay," he said slowly. "Let's try to unpack this." X turned his head slightly, eyes bright, curious. Elon took a deep breath. "We know the universe had a beginning, the Big Bang, an explosion of infinite density. It created space, time, energy, and matter. Before that, there was nothing. At least, that's what we think." X nodded. "But where did that first thing come from?" Elon hesitated. "Some scientists think it came from quantum fluctuations, tiny blips of energy in a vacuum. Randomness. But what if someone made it happen?" X asked. The room grew quiet again. Elon looked over at Grimes. She didn't smile this time, she just watched. "Listen." Elon rubbed his jaw. "Some people believe that there's a being who caused the universe to begin, a prime mover, a designer. But if there is a God, why would he stay hidden?" X shrugged. "Maybe we're supposed to figure it out ourselves." Elon blinked. That answer, simple and unguarded, lodged itself in his chest like a soft stone dropping into deep water. He tried to shake it off. Science explains how things work. The formulas, the logic, the forces. It's measurable. But belief? That's subjective. It's not empirical. Grimes spoke gently. What if science is just uncovering a language that faith has always been speaking in its own way? Elon opened his mouth, then closed it. X tilted his head. "Do you think love is measurable?" Elon chuckled under his breath. "Not really." "Then maybe God's like that," X said, voice soft. "Not just something to prove, but something to feel." The room felt heavier now, but not in a burdensome way. It was reverent, as though something unseen had quietly joined the conversation. Elon leaned back. "So let's say God exists. What does that mean?" X smiled faintly. "It means we're not alone." Grimes looked from her son to Elon. "That's something even grown-ups forget." Elon stared at them both, his son's clarity, his partner's quiet strength. Something inside him shifted. Not belief, exactly, but a crack in the armor of certainty he had worn for so long. And in that silence, one question lingered longer than the rest. What if God isn't something to solve, but someone to seek? Elon leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table, fingers loosely laced together. The night outside was dark and quiet, but inside his mind, a storm was gathering. He looked at X, his son's small frame sitting across from him, eyes steady, open. "Let's say God does exist," Elon said softly. "What do you think he's like?" X didn't answer right away. He glanced toward the ceiling, as if weighing the question against the stars above them. "Not an old man in the sky," he said. Maybe he's in the stars, or in how people love each other, or maybe he's in the way we forgive." Elon blinked, the response hitting something deep inside him. The simplicity, the sincerity, the truth of it. He'd built machines that could think, rockets that could navigate space, satellites that tracked every inch of Earth, and yet none of it could explain what he felt in this moment. X had reframed the question, not by answering it definitively, but by opening it wider. For the first time in years, Elon Musk allowed the truth to surface. He didn't know. He didn't know if God was real. He didn't know if love was divine or just evolution, and worse, he wasn't sure he was supposed to know. He rubbed the back of his neck and let out a long breath. You know, X, when I was your age, I used to think everything had an answer. That if I could just learn enough, build enough, I could make sense of the world. X tilted his head, listening quietly. But somewhere along the way, Elon continued, I stopped asking the questions that didn't have clean answers. I pushed people away. I thought if I could do enough, innovate enough, I'd be fulfilled. X's voice was small but clear. Were you? Elon paused. Sometimes. But not always. He looked down, tapping his fingers softly on the table. Maybe I was trying to be God, instead of looking for him. Trying to control everything, shape everything, like the universe was just another equation to solve. There was a long silence. Then X said, almost in a whisper, You don't have to figure it all out, Dad. Elon looked up, surprised by how those words landed. They didn't scold him. They didn't challenge him. They simply accepted him. He gave a soft laugh, but it wasn't lighthearted. It was the laugh of someone who had just realized how far off course they'd drifted without knowing it. Maybe faith, he murmured, means accepting you won't have all the answers. Elon couldn't shake the question. Days passed, meetings piled up, deadlines loomed, but the words stayed with him. Do you believe in God? They followed him into the boardrooms of Tesla, hovered over the launch plans at SpaceX, and echoed through his otherwise calculated mind while he lay in bed, eyes open to the ceiling. At first, he tried to reason with it, dissect it. Maybe it was just a child's curiosity. Maybe it didn't require an answer. But deep down, he knew better. This wasn't just about belief. It was about something else, something harder to name. It was about meaning. One night, after Grimes and the household had gone to bed, Elon stepped outside onto the balcony of his home. The Los Angeles skyline twinkled in the distance, but above him stretched a darker, quieter sky. The stars looked colder than usual, less like destinations. He sat down slowly, a glass of water in hand, and just stared. A moment later, he heard soft footsteps. X appeared in the doorway, blanket wrapped around his shoulders. He climbed into the chair beside his father and looked up at the sky, too. Elon didn't speak right away. When he did, his voice was quiet. I don't know if I believe, he said, but I want to understand. X didn't move, but his presence felt anchoring. I'm not afraid of God, Elon continued. I'm afraid I'll live my whole life chasing things and never really find what it all means. X was quiet for a long time, then said gently, What if you've always been looking in the wrong direction? The words hit Elon with the force of quiet truth. He didn't answer. He just nodded, breathing in the night air. And for once, his mind wasn't calculating or planning. It was still. Later that night, he sat alone in his office. The laptop was open, the screen glowing softly in the dark. He opened a private thread. A contact most wouldn't expect. A name that carried weight. Donald Trump. I need to ask you something off the record, Elon typed. A few seconds passed. Then the reply came. Always. Elon stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keys. Then he wrote the one question he hadn't been able to ask anyone else. Do you believe in God? And everything shifted again. Mar-a-Lago was quiet when Elon Musk walked in. The night air was still, and the soft glow of lamps lit the halls in warm gold. A staffer guided him silently to a private study where Donald Trump was already seated behind a massive wooden desk, a cigar resting in an ashtray, untouched. He looked up as Elon entered and gave a knowing smile. Didn't think I'd get a message like that from you, Trump said, gesturing toward the chair across from him. Elon sat down slowly. Yeah, me neither. There was a pause between them, an air of formality giving way to something softer. Two powerful men, alone with questions no power could solve. Trump broke the silence first. So, what's really on your mind? Elon didn't deflect. He didn't hedge. He leaned forward and spoke plainly. Do you believe in God? Trump's face didn't move for a beat. Then he leaned back, exhaling. Some days, yes. Some days, no. But I'll tell you this. Something's guiding all this. You don't get this much chaos without some kind of map underneath it. Elon nodded slowly. My son asked me the same question, out of nowhere. And for the first time, I didn't have an answer. Trump's expression softened. That's when you know you're finally asking the right questions. The comment hung in the air like a lantern between them. Elon, so used to controlling conversations, didn't speak. He just listened. Trump leaned forward, fingers steepled. The older I get, the more I realize belief isn't about being certain. It's about being open. You don't need a burning bush, Elon. You just need to stop running. Elon stared at the floor. I guess I've been searching for meaning in all the wrong places. Trump smiled gently. You've been trying to build your way to peace, but sometimes peace starts where the building ends. Elon chuckled, almost involuntarily. What do you say to a kid who believes in something you don't even understand? You say the truth, Trump said. You say, I'm still figuring it out. Elon sat back, nodding. Yeah, that's probably the most honest thing I've said in years. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was shared. A quiet brotherhood formed in the space between doubt and discovery. Trump picked up his cigar but didn't light it. He looked directly at Elon and said, X just changed your life. Elon didn't disagree. He couldn't. The evening air in Los Angeles was warm, but the stillness inside Elon Musk's home felt even warmer. In the soft glow of a side lamp, X sat cross-legged on the living room floor, a small stack of crayons scattered around him. He was drawing stars, dozens of them, golden yellow and overlapping, across a navy blue page. Elon watched from the couch, silent, not interfering. His son drew with a kind of unfiltered freedom, like he was documenting something he already knew. Elon didn't say much. He didn't ask what the stars meant. He didn't offer theories about nebulae or light years. For the first time in a long time, he didn't try to teach. He just stayed. As X finished the drawing and began another, Elon noticed how carefully the boy placed each star, as if each one had its own reason for being. Watching him, something softened in Elon. The stars had always been his destination, his escape, his goal. But now, they looked like something else entirely. Not distant objectives, but reflections. Mirrors of something unseen but deeply felt. When X glanced up and met his eyes, Elon didn't speak. He just nodded slowly, a silent acknowledgement of something too sacred for explanation. That night, Elon didn't open his laptop. He didn't check factory reports or reply to global emails. He simply sat beside his son on the floor, their backs against the couch, watching stars bloom on paper like quiet prayers. Later, Grimes entered the room. She paused in the doorway, taking in the sight. Elon sitting still, X humming softly, the house finally at peace. She didn't speak, but her eyes met Elon's, and in that glance was something unspoken. Approval, gratitude, maybe even belief. Elon looked at her and whispered, I'm not sure, but I'm listening. He didn't need to know all the answers. He was finally beginning to understand that the pursuit of meaning wasn't about solving. It was about staying close, showing up, and letting something deeper unfold. That night, as X fell asleep with crayon on his fingers and stars beside his bed, Elon remained by the door for a long time, eyes closed, not asking for anything. He didn't need certainty, he needed presence. and that, at last, was enough. Sometimes the best answer is to stay in the question. Late one afternoon, Elon returned home to find a folded sheet of paper resting on his desk. The crayon lines were uneven, the colors bright and wild, just like a child's drawing should be. There were two figures, one tall and one small, standing beneath a sky crowded with yellow stars. Above them, scrawled in X's blocky handwriting, were 5 simple words: "Maybe God listens too." Elon stood there for a long while, staring at the drawing. He didn't frame it, didn't scan it or archive it. He simply set it beside his keyboard, next to engineering notebooks and prototype sketches, like something sacred. Every morning when he sat down to work, he saw it. And somehow, just seeing it softened his edges. In the days that followed, something began to shift. It wasn't radical or dramatic. He didn't leave SpaceX or pause Tesla. He still designed rockets, met with engineers, debated timelines. But underneath the speed and sharpness was something gentler. He started speaking with more care. He paused longer before replying, and for the first time in years, he listened more than he talked. It showed in the smallest ways: a longer handshake, a genuine follow-up question, a slow walk through the Tesla cafeteria where he stopped to thank the staff by name. Not because someone told him to, but because something inside him had been awakened by a child's question. Even in boardrooms and technical labs, Elon found himself wondering, who else might be carrying unspoken weight? What moments of wonder had he overlooked? He was no longer racing to the next milestone. He was learning to recognize the value of staying still. One evening, as they sat quietly together after dinner, X looked up from another drawing and said, "You know, Dad, you don't have to believe everything. Just believe in something." Elon blinked slowly, caught off guard by the simplicity and depth of the words. He didn't respond with a lecture or a theory. He just nodded, then reached over to ruffle his son's hair. That night he sat alone in the dim light of his study. The city outside hummed with movement and glow, but inside the room there was stillness. He glanced again at the drawing, 2 figures under the stars, and found a strange sense of peace. He wasn't certain about God, he wasn't sure what faith really meant, but for the first time in his life, Elon Musk was willing to stay in the question rather than race toward the answer. He began to journal differently, less like an inventor solving problems, and more like a man watching the sky. He left pages open, sometimes only writing one thought, one question. He even stopped trying to define every feeling and just let them come and go like passing stars. And in those quiet moments, something new took root. Not clarity, not doctrine, but wonder. Grimes noticed the change. She didn't ask about it, didn't try to label it. But one evening, as Elon tucked X into bed and turned off the light, she whispered, "I think you're becoming someone softer." Elon didn't argue. He just whispered back, "I'm not sure, but I'm listening." In a world driven by certainty, Elon had discovered something greater: mystery, wonder, and the quiet courage to admit, "I don't know." He was no longer afraid of silence, no longer obsessed with proof. He was simply present. And sometimes, that was enough. I'm Sana. Subscribe for more inspiring stories about faith, family, and the moments that change everything. Do you believe in God? A question that once startled Elon in the stillness of a dining room now lived quietly in the stars above his home. And every night, as he passed X's room and glanced at that drawing, he carried the echo of it with him.